Channel 4, WTAE, Pittsburgh.
Headlining tonight's news, 20 school children die when a train collides with a bus. A big gambling roundup in the nation, including this district. The FBI locates $750,000 in art masterpieces, and the story of a man who says his false teeth were stolen.
Trial board recommends that veteran police officer be dismissed. The government is considering fallout shelters for 20 million Americans. In sports, a very interesting trade in the National Football League. All the news and sports in just a moment.
It's 7 o'clock, and here is 4 Star News with Carl Ide and Ed Conway, presented by Duquesne Light, an investor-owned electric light and power company serving Pittsburgh and the surrounding area.
Good evening, everyone. Now let's see what kind of day it's been. It was a tragic day out in Greeley, Colorado. Tinsel and Christmas trees glittered in the classrooms of the Delta Elementary School, but there were no classes. 20 children, most of them students at the county school, were killed when a passenger train crashed into their school bus. Here now is a direct report.
Suddenly, as the school bus crossed the Union Pacific Railroad tracks, it was hit almost in the center with near explosive reaction. The impact scattered the bus and its precious cargo for 300 feet along the track. 20 of the youngsters now lie dead in a temporary Greeley morgue. 14 others are hospitalized, several severely injured. The children were moved from their rural district school only about a week ago. It was this change that necessitated that the bus cross the railroad tracks. It had been a hotly discussed issue in the Greeley area. The bus driver, Duane Harms, was held in custody by the Highway Patrol, but as of airtime, no charges had been filed against him.
The nationwide crackdown on organized crime continues with another series of raids on suspected gamblers in the Pittsburgh district today. The largest team of government agents ever to conduct a raid in this area so far has arrested 24 persons. 15 places have been hit, and the agents are not finished. In addition to Pittsburgh, agents swooped down on Westmoreland County, hitting Greensburg, Jeanette, Mount Pleasant, and Monessen. Also Connellsville in Fayette County and Whitaker. U.S. Attorney Joseph Ammerman said the raids were tied in closely with the nationwide crackdown. Those arrested were brought to Pittsburgh and taken before U.S. Commissioner Alex McNocker. They were charged with failing to have a $50 gambling tax and failure to pay the 10% excise tax on betting. The FBI has recovered 9 paintings stolen from the art collection of G. David Thompson last July. There were 10 in all taken, but the one other had been recovered yesterday at the time of the arrest of suspect Ralph Hobbs of Beaver Falls. The paintings, reportedly valued at about $760,000, were the works of Picasso and other noted artists. FBI agents working with Whitehall Police, Allegheny County and Beaver County detectives, and Pittsburgh Police located the paintings in the Pittsburgh motel at Coriopolis, hidden in a mattress cover. A second man has been arrested by the FBI in Louisville, Kentucky, on fraud charges growing out of this art theft. A police trial board has completed its hearings on charges against veteran police lieutenant Arthur Baker of Pittsburgh, who was accused of visiting a gambling establishment in New Kensington. They found him guilty of conduct unbecoming an officer. The board, comprised of Assistant Superintendents Lawrence Maloney, William Gilmore, and Thomas Martin, unanimously recommended that Lieutenant Baker be dismissed from the Pittsburgh Police Department. Baker had been under suspension for the past week. Charges were preferred against him by Superintendent James Slusser.
The murder trial of John Wilkes has gone to the jury in Uniontown. He's charged with shooting his 20-year-old son, Ronald. Wilkes testified that he thought his son was an intruder and shot him in the dark. Detroit truck driver, 31-year-old Robert Cesney, is reported in fair condition at Homestead Hospital with injuries suffered when his tractor-trailer truck, loaded with steel, ran out of control on Lebanon Church Road, knocked down 2 power lines, hit gas pumps at a Sunoco service station, then crashed into the station building, setting it on fire. State police announced they arrested 4,000 drivers for speeding by using radar last month. The police have doubled the number of radar teams touring the state's highways. Here in Pittsburgh, cab driver Romeo Pro has been convicted of larceny. He's charged with stealing a watch and ring belonging to James Savina. Romeo had his reason. He says that Savina stole his false teeth. Asked about that, Savina said, "Why should I steal his false teeth? I can't even wear my own." A look at the international news in just a moment.
And then the witch began to boil the pot of water over the smoking fire.
But, Mommy, why didn't the witch use an electric range like you do?
Well, honey, there wasn't any electricity where this witch lived, so she had to cook over an old-fashioned fire.
But, Mommy, you mean this witch didn't have electric lights or television or anything? Do you suppose that's why she was so mean to everyone?
Well, I suppose that was one of the reasons, honey. I'm sure she would have been a lot happier with all the household helpers that we have electrically these days.
Gee, Mommy, it's fun to live in a real modern house like this, isn't it?
It certainly is. And because Duquesne Light Electric Service does make living so much more enjoyable, so much easier for all of us, it's really true that you live better electrically.
A diplomatic battle over a possible ceasefire in Katanga wages this evening in such places as London, Washington, Paris, and United Nations headquarters in New York. They want the fighting to stop in the Congo. But while they talk, UN and Katanganese troops fought a ground battle with mortar shells in Elizabethville. Overhead, Swedish jets staged a rocket attack on the rebels. Meanwhile, Europeans from war-torn Katanga arrive at the Red Cross Center in northern Rhodesia, where they find safety from the fighting. Nearly 300 Belgian women and children were evacuated from their homes where they spent most of their lives. One woman is 90 years of age, and she said, sadly, "Our lives are finished in Africa. We must start again in the land of our birth." Things are still shaky in the Dominican Republic. Police there have cracked down on roaming street gangs and dispersed vandals who smashed and stripped cars. They jailed 21 persons for vandalism. In Paris today, the NATO Council was told that Russia likely will have several hundred intercontinental nuclear rockets by 1963, but that the United States will have even more. Defense Secretary McNamara said our nation has added what he calls great muscle to our conventional forces.
The Venezuelan government has moved sailors and paratroops into its capital city of Caracas to protect President Kennedy when he visits there on Saturday. Following some demonstrations today, the government announced it will have 30,000 troops on hand to protect Mr. Kennedy against any communist demonstrations. General James Van Fleet told President Kennedy today that he had just visited 6 training camps, and he was convinced that the morale of National Guardsmen and reservists recalled to duty was magnificent. Then, a short while later, Deputy Defense Secretary Roswell Gilpatrick, said he may have been wrong in thinking reservists would be mobilized and demobilized to meet Cold War crises. Mr. Gilpatrick also revealed that the government is working on a new civil defense program aimed at constructing fallout shelters for 20 million persons. Having been told that there might be a 15-minute warning in event of nuclear attack, the Dormont School Board today tested whether students in public schools could reach home in 15 minutes. School officials say today's test was done to see if it's the best workable plan. The children were timed from the sound of the alert until they arrived home. Parents cooperated by filling out forms complete with the times. The data will be compiled by Dormont school officials. An Arctic cold wave.
You know how cold it can get around Pittsburgh. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you could just touch a button and fill your home with warm spring sunlight? Well, now you can almost do just that. And now you can have electric heating, the next best thing to sunshine. Just set the thermostat, and clean, even heat radiates from ceiling or from baseboard units. With electric heat, there are no flames, no fumes, no drafts, no hot spots, no furnace maintenance, and no dirt. With electric heating, you have a thermostat in each room. You get the exact warmth you want, room to room. And you'd pay a lot less than you'd expect for heating that's so much better. Don't be misled by cost estimates made by people not in the electric industry. Duquesne Light will give you a specific estimate for the particular home you buy or build. For complete details, call Duquesne Light Company today.
The National Catholic Welfare Conference says there is no constitutional bar to inclusion of church-related schools in any program of federal aid to education. The group drew up the legal study in reply to the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare memorandum of last March. Racial tension mounts in Albany, Georgia this evening. At least 466 persons have been jailed in 3 days of Negro demonstrations against the impending trial of 11 Freedom Riders. The governor has alerted the National Guard to stand by. The Department of Public Instruction has begun its statewide study to determine the physical fitness of young people between the ages of 10 and 17. Among the schools chosen for the test is Wilkinsburg High, where our Channel 4 camera found these young folks testing their physical abilities. The results were sent to the University of Pittsburgh, where they're tabulated and forwarded to Washington as part of the President's National Physical Fitness Program. In Lower Borough, near New Kensington, the most modern supermarket in the tri-state area has been opened. It's located in the Hillcrest Shopping Center. Mayor Hill and Police Chief John Resitar took part in the opening day ceremonies. Along with Kroger officials Ed Gambone and Ed Kenny, James Warmer will manage the supermarket. The Montauk Fire Defense Council marks its 20th anniversary with a meeting in the Sutersville Volunteer Fire Hall. The council was made up of only 3 paid fire departments, 57 volunteer fire companies. Many individuals and organizations were given awards for services to the firemen and council. Among them, Judge John Broski, W.C. Bracken, George Reed, James Belknap, and Channel 4's program manager, Preston Stover.
The Universal Cyclops Steel Corporation of Bridgeville has purchased the Crucible Steel Company sheet mill in Lawrenceville. Universal Cyclops says all of its rolling and finishing operations mill will be moved to the new plant. And William J. Stevens has been elected Executive Vice President of Jones & Laughlin Steel Corporation. He comes here from Bethlehem Steel, where he was a sales executive. The marathon run by members of the Theta Chi fraternity at Indiana State College continues tonight and will not end until 6 p.m. Saturday. The college students started the marathon Tuesday evening around their fraternity house to raise funds for the Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh. Members of the fraternity have pledged to donate a penny a lap. Others chip in, too. The Reverend Roy Hawk of the Zion Lutheran Church ran a lap and contributed his share. Meanwhile, that long-lasting Monopoly game, played for 120 and a half hours at the Sigma Alpha Mu fraternity at Pitt, has paid off for the community chest. The manufacturer of the game sent 100 assorted games to the Chest United Fund's Holiday Center in the Civic Building to be distributed in the name of the fraternity to less fortunate children. 2 of the players in the long game, Alan Polinoff and Howard Finkel, plus their banker Michael Greenberg, gave the games to Mrs. Lillian Steiger, the director of the center. The owner of Michael's restaurant on Forbes Avenue says holdups are getting to be a habit at his place. He's been held up 3 times in 4 weeks, and his waitresses are getting jittery, not to mention the customers. Our Channel 4 camera visits a little holiday spirit, and it's becoming increasingly evident in the schools. The children of the Wilkins School in Swissvale have chosen next Tuesday evening at 7:30 as the night they present their annual Christmas show. The special program is for parents and friends of the school. The teachers are directing the show. The place, the school auditorium on Charleston Street, Regent Square. And it was a busy day at the American Red Cross headquarters on Smithfield Street today as the volunteers filled Christmas packages for the servicemen at the Nike sites in the Pittsburgh district and for needy children in the city and county. Lieutenant James Jackson and Specialist James Ross from the Oakdale site of the 18th Artillery Group watched the assembly line with Mrs. John Meacham, chairman of the production volunteers. Then they took the gifts to the various Nike sites. And we'll show you a way to shop for Christmas after Ed Conway brings us up to date on sports. First, however, this word from Mellon Bank.
It's a wonderful boat, Harry.
Huh?
I said it's a wonderful boat.
Uh-huh.
Thought you were the fellow who couldn't save money to buy things.
Willpower. That's all it takes. Dedication and willpower.
And a little help from Mellon Bank Check Save, maybe.
Yeah, well, a little help from Mellon Bank Check Save, I guess.
Well, if you're the lion-hearted, iron-willed type that he is, then maybe this message isn't for you. But if you're like me and saving money is your downfall, then we have a great idea for you. Mellon Bank Check Save Plan, the easiest way to save money that anyone's thought of yet. Why? Because it's automatic. You tell Mellon Bank how much you want to save, and they do the rest. Each month, Mellon Bank will transfer any amount you specify from your checking account into your savings account. All you do is sit back and watch your savings pile up. If you start now, you'll have that boat or whatever you're saving for before you know it. You'll find it's easier to save at Mellon Bank. Just walk up to any teller in any Mellon Bank office and say, "I'd like to start a check save account."
The Cleveland Browns today obtained draft rights to the great Syracuse All-American halfback Ernie Davis from the Washington Redskins. Now, in return, the Browns give the Redskins their veteran ace halfback Bobby Mitchell and their number 2 draft pick, halfback Leroy Jackson from Western Illinois. Now, if Davis should sign with Buffalo, the American Football League team that selected him, the Redskins will still get Mitchell and Jackson. Another football note, Eddie Erdelatz, the former Navy coach, is the latest name to be considered as far as the Army head football coaching job is concerned. Basketball tonight at the Civic Arena. The Wrens will take on the Chicago Majors in the second game of a doubleheader. First game will find Kansas City going against Cleveland. Last night at the arena, of course, the Hornets brought to an end an 8-game losing streak when they beat Cleveland 5-2. Let's take a look at how they did it. In the first period, you'll see Bill Needham of Cleveland scoring the first goal. The Hornets are seen in the dark jerseys. Cleveland moves out in front, 1-0. Here's Jerry McNamara, the Hornet goalie. He had 44 saves last night. Here's a little bit of a fight that broke out between Dallas Smith, number 9 of the Hornets, and Wayne Larkin, number 18 of Cleveland. They both got time in the penalty box. And after they got out, Larkin scored the second Cleveland goal to put the Barons ahead by a score of 2-0. That's the way the first period ended. Second period now, Cease Hoekstra, beautiful shot for the first Hornet goal. Or rather, this is in the first period. The first period ended 2-1 Cleveland. Hoekstra scored that goal. There you see Les Binkley, the Cleveland goalie, making a save. There's Earl Balfour scoring for Pittsburgh, and that ties it up at 2 even. Now in the third period, Ray Ross gives the Hornets the go-ahead goal. As it turns out, that's all they needed, although Tardif and Ellick scored later. Now here's a fight that broke out right toward the end of the game. There's Martin Howe involved in it for Pittsburgh. Bo Ellick, and then Coach Larry Regan comes in to take the part of a peacemaker. Jackie Price also seen over there to the left. The Hornets beat Cleveland 5-2, and that's the top of the news from the world of sports.
Would you like to cut ironing time in half? Save 3.5 hours of work a week? Forget about weather worries on wash day? An all-electric clothes dryer is the answer. Clean, safe, gentle electric heat dries your clothes wrinkle-free. No flame, no fumes. Buy an all-electric clothes dryer at your ready kilowatt dealers.
Bag Club right now of Saks Fifth Avenue. This is rather an exclusive shop, as you can see or will see in a moment. And incidentally, only men are allowed in here. So we're kind of browsing around to see what the men are buying this year for their ladies for Christmas. Here to help me out is Bernice Dodson, who has a very lovely looking stole. I guess that's a stole. Bernice, would you describe that?
This is a sable stole. It's very beautiful, very long.
And very expensive?
Yes, I would say so.
You can say the price. I'd like to hear it.
This is $3,000.
Oh, fine. Great. Wrap up a half a dozen. Would you show it? Yeah, show it to me in the full length there and the whole business. Hey, that is real pretty. Real nice. Now, on the other side of the shop over here, what is this, Bernice?
This is a jewel-studded toolkit.
Well, doggone if you aren't right. It has a complete set of cools. Nothing wrong with me. Tools. Let's bring the camera in a little closer to have a look at these. Now, this is the most practical, useful gift I've seen yet. That's the handle, isn't it? That's jewel-studded.
It's the one handle for all the tools.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's a hammer. I think every lady should have one of these in the house. A little claw hammer. And screwdrivers. My George, there's everything in there. How much is that going to cost me, Bernice?
This is $15, Carl.
Finally, the story of a man who became quite bewildered while driving on the California Thruway. He drove up alongside a car containing a man, his wife, and 6 children in it. He said, "I've been trying to get to Los Angeles for 3 days. Which way is it?" The man with the 6 children answered, "Look, buddy, don't ask me about this road. I ain't back from my honeymoon yet." Well, that's what happened around the world, the nation, and the tri-state area. Ellen Ashano next with the weather. Thanks for letting us visit.
And good night from Duquesne Light.
4-Star News with Carl Ide and Ed Conway has been presented by Duquesne Light, who reminds you that electric service is still the biggest bargain in the family budget. Channel 4 brings you Pittsburgh's complete news roundup each night at 7 o'clock on 4-Star News.